The prospect pool overviews are going to continue on today with the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, the Hurricanes do not have that strong of a prospect pool. I'm not going to lie to you guys. However, they still have some very good prospects who have been developing in the system for a couple of years now. Starting off with the guy who probably will not be on this list next year. We've talked about him many times before, and that is Bradley Nadeau, who is, as my screen's all over a little bit, he is very underrated by many people. He's definitely a top 50 prospect for sure. I don't know where he ranks amongst that. I haven't made my prospect rankings just yet. But he is somebody who has put up great numbers in University of Maine, played in the BCHL, won 2 championships, and this past year with the Chicago Wolves had 58 points in 64 games played. He's a wing/center. I know it says left wing on his profile. He's from St. Francois, New Brunswick. He is 5'11", 172 pounds, and he was the 30th overall pick back in 2023. He was the top scorer this past year in the American Hockey League for Chicago. He had a very strong World Junior, which not a lot of players can say that after the World Juniors last year. And then as well as that too, I think he will be in the NHL next season. I think you look at this kid and the talent that he has, I think there is almost no doubt that he makes it into the NHL next season. So definitely somebody who I'm very excited to see when he comes up to the Carolina Hurricanes next year in a full-time role. Nikita Artamonov played in Russia this past year in the KHL in his second full season, and he played absolutely phenomenal. He was born in Russia, not even going to try and pronounce that. He's a left wing/right wing, so he can play both sides. He's 5'11", 192 pounds, and again, this past year in his second year in the KHL, had 39 points in 63 games played, had 22 goals. He is built for the Carolina type of play style. From what I've seen from many scouts that I've read into, he really does fit into the Carolina just overall style of play. So I'm excited to see what Artamonov's going to become. He has really good pace, a really good motor. If you're scoring 22 goals in the KHL as a 19-year-old, you really have a good shot of making it to the NHL. I wonder if we will see him in the NHL or AHL next season. And look at that, too. He was involved in the Cole Eiserman trade that got flipped over to Carolina. It's kind of wild how that all turned into Artamonov. So very exciting there. We're going to see what he's going to become with the Hurricanes in these coming years. But I'm very high on him compared to some other people who don't really look into him that much. Looking at our first guy here from this past year's draft, he was the 49th overall pick by the Hurricanes, and it's Charlie Corrado. Yes, we have another Penn State player here. He was born in Falston, Maryland, I think that is. He's a center. He's 6 foot, 194 pounds. And this past year with Penn State University, had 42 points in 38 games played. He was a top 20 scorer in college. I don't really know what this kid's going to do in the NHL. We'll see how he is how he does in the development camps and all that. But Corrado is an overager. He's 20 years old, so that really is something you got to keep in mind there with him. I think that the overall potential is there. I don't know if there's going to be more than maybe a third or fourth line role in the NHL at that point. I feel like this guy could be an AHLer. I'm not 100% very high on him. I did want to profile him, but looking at my prospect rankings, he's not even in the top 10. So definitely somebody who we'll have to see what happens with him, but he's kind of a wild card when it comes to the Carolina just overall prospect depth chart, in my opinion. Now, here's the guy who you can really be excited about here in this coming season. That is Alexander Nikishin, who has spent the last couple of seasons in the KHL, was the 69th overall pick in 2020. He's from Moscow, Russia, 6'4", Orel, Russia. I'm reading the wrong guy. 6'4", 216 pounds. Again, he was back in 2020 when he was drafted. This guy's been in the KHL for a couple of seasons now at this point, and has put up very consistent numbers every single year. Just look at it. 46 points this past year with SK St. Petersburg, scoring consistently every single season as a top heavy hitting, defensive and offensive defenseman. He's big, he's mean, he's skilled. And honestly, in terms of defenseman prospect rankings, I said Parekh was my number one in the last one. This guy's number two in my rankings. I think he just has phenomenal skill, great hitting, and again, the KHL just experience. It's really going to go a long way for him. And he's coming into the NHL next year, probably going to be in a full-time role. It's going to be very exciting to see what he's going to do alongside all those other players in Carolina. And on a back end that has been very weak the last couple of years in terms of just like defensive play outside of Jacob Slavin. Getting a guy there like Nikishin who can come in right away, has that experience, is going to go a long way for the Hurricanes. Limitov was just a defenseman drafted this past year, and the Hurricanes really love to get good value out of later draft picks. And I think they have another guy like this here in Limitov. He was born in Moscow, Russia. This is the guy who was actually born in Moscow, Russia. He's a left shot defenseman. He's 6'4", 192 pounds. Again, was drafted 67th overall in this past year's draft. Had a decent year in the MHL, MHK Dynamo. Had a 46 games played, 23 points. Not too bad for a defenseman. He's big, he's mobile, and he also plays aggressive. From what I could see from his scouting reports, he plays very aggressive on the ice for sure, and I think Carolina definitely needs players like that who can be an aggressive. He's going to take some time, though. You're obviously going to see these Russians. They want to play in the KHL. So it's the same thing there with Limitov. But looking at his draft profile, a big mobile defenseman who plays aggressively. Again, it's just kind of the same thing you see in a lot of these things. Has good skating, good shooting. He's big physically. He's a solid prospect. I think, again, this is somebody who we could see in the NHL in 3 to 4 years. But I have a lot to look forward to there with Limitov. I think he's going to be very exciting. And Carolina fans should really be looking forward to him when he comes over to the NHL. Again, they don't really need him right now. You're going to let him develop a little bit, probably play some time with Chicago, the Chicago Wolves, that is, in the AHL. But honestly, I think Carolina has a really good defensive pool here. They got Nikishin, who's the number one guy, obviously. They have this guy, too. There's a lot to look forward to with the Hurricanes and their prospects. Now, moving on to a goaltender prospect who I am a pretty big fan of. We have Semyon Frolov here. He was born in Russia as well. Carolina loves their Russian prospects. That is what? 1, 2, 3, 4 prospects out of the 6 here that we're giving a main spotlight to who are Russian. Very intriguing. 6'3", 196 pounds, was drafted 41st overall back in 2025. He went 9-2-2 this past year with HMMK Spartak. He had a .915. He has really strong puck tracking skills from what I can tell. Again, this guy was a second round pick. I think definitely he has the size to become an NHL goaltender, but we're going to see him in the KHL for a little bit. He's not going to come over immediately, but again, you look at his draft profile, it's pretty much the same things that I've been saying. He's a strong puck-tracking goalie with an elite athlete that makes up some technical flaws with his other strengths. So he has some upside there for sure to become something. I think that it's going to take some time. Again, with goaltenders, it does take a lot of time to really develop and become the goaltender that you want them to be. But honestly, I think Frolov has plenty of time to do that. There's really no rush. Carolina has their goalie in Kochetkov. They're not terribly worried about getting in somebody else. So I guess we'll have to see there what happens. But Frolov, very intriguing there as a newly acquired pick. And the guys that Carolina got, to be honest with you, I think a lot of them have been very good ads. So I think Frolov is one of those guys as well. So taking a look then at some of the other prospects who are in the pool, Felix Unger-Sorum played his first year in the AHL with the Chicago Wolves after being in the SHL for a little bit. Had a decent year, 20 points in 61 games played. We're definitely going to see a little bit more in his development before he is actually NHL ready. Dominic Badinka there as well. Actually played some games this past year, was in the SHL too. He's been somebody who's been very high upon by some people. You have Ivan Ryabkin, who I was like really high on a couple of years ago, or not even a couple of years, a couple months ago when we were getting into our draft previews on the podcasts. But he bounced around a lot, was in the KHL, was in the Russian MHL, was in the Russian VHL, and then eventually ended up in the USHL. Has put up good numbers almost everywhere he's gone. I think we need to see a full year of him actually on one team to really kind of just grasp who this guy really is. But there's a lot of upside there. Alexander Rykov as well was a pick in 2023, has been going around a little bit, played with Tractor this past year in the KHL, put up some okay numbers, but nothing really exciting there out of him. And then Philip Ekberg, who was a 7th round pick, put up good numbers with the Ottawa 67s, kind of got a little bit of an under wrap, and I feel like a lot of people were giving this guy a lot of potential, and honestly, it's kind of a steal that they got him in the 7th round, and he could really become something. Which, last but not least, we will move into the prospect rankings. Again, Carolina's pool, not the strongest, but still pretty good. Nikishin leads that charge there. Nadeau at 2nd. I think those two are pretty explanatory. They're pretty much consensus. Artemonov there at 3. Sorum at 4. Ryabkin at 5. I'm very high on Ryabkin. Badinka, not so much. Limitov, I think, has NHL upside, but not at this moment. Frolov, a goaltender, going to take some time. And then Rykov there. And then Jeremy Poirier, or Justin Poirier, as well, just barely cracked into the list. Had some pretty good years in juniors, so we'll have to see what happens there with him. But yeah, that is the Carolina Hurricanes prospect pool and rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on Carolina. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe down below if you are new. We will hop into the Chicago Blackhawks prospect pool review tomorrow. But thank you all for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.